millennial here. Welcome back. Hopefully you missed us. I'm Natasha. I'm the millennial here with Anthony. He's the Gramps.
Hello, everybody. We have some exciting guests today, some friends, some professionals that we work with. I'm really happy to introduce Mike and Zsa Zsa. I'm going to give them a moment to say hello and introduce themselves.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mike. I'm part of Team Courtney Coaching.
Hello, I'm Zsa Zsa, and I'm also the other part of Team Courtney Coaching.
Well, welcome to our fantastic studio or kitchen. So why don't you guys tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're at in your career, and then I want to jump into some storytelling with you.
Perfect. I am a correctional sergeant. I work for the state of California. I've been in that role now for about a year. I started off as just an officer out of high desert up in kind of the outskirts of Nevada, up in Susanville. And for there, I went out and I was working kind of promoted into a position where I was working with CAL FIRE as well. So it was CDCR and CAL FIRE, taking inmates out and fighting fires. And then from there promoted to where I'm at now, which is a facility, more of a kind of a gang, very, very much a gang oriented prison. And I am now in a leadership position as a sergeant. And, for the last, 5 months now, I've actually been, not working because I'm dealing with, I got in a fight with an inmate, had an assault that ended up hurting my back. And so I'm going through the workers' comp stuff right now. But, so it's been a bit of a different, this has actually happened a couple times in this, because it is kind of a high risk career. And, it's, kind of changed part of, even our business through those injuries and things that have kind of happened. So that's part of my story. And then the other half is I've been running, I started Team Courtney Coaching back in, I don't even know the exact date, but I've been basically doing personal training and coaching since I was probably 18 years old. And, it's just slowly, in time grown from being what started off as a just personal training, business, and then eventually into an online only business as it is now. And then of course when Zsa and I met, she became a big part of the company as well. And so we've been doing that behind the scenes together as well. And Zsa, she has her own career. I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah. So I am in a leadership role myself. I've spent 15 years in the food industry and worked for Cisco for 11 years of that. And I'm now transitioning to US Foods as a produce specialist. It's a big new role for me to be mentoring other sales reps into selling just produce. So I've been a meat specialist, I've been a seafood specialist, and now I'm going to try produce. So it's pretty interesting that I'm going to be on the flip end of that now, where I go out and basically facilitate the sales reps in their role, which it was always the other way around. Someone was facilitating me. So it's really nice that now, after all these years of being in my career, I'm able to step back and now help other people grow their business. So I'm pretty excited about that. So I'm 42 years old. I have 3 sons, Uriah, Drake, and Caden. We're a blended family, and I help Michael with his business as well, the coaching. So pretty much just like the team Mama Bear.
Well, exciting. So I didn't know the extent of both of your backgrounds. So the leadership role that you're in, in corrections. So thank you, number one. My father was a cop for over 30 years. So a ton of respect. And I didn't know that you were in sales and leadership, which is interesting as we're walking into a podcast around sales and leadership.
They're here for a reason.
They're here for a
Go
reason.
figure.
So full transparency, the way that I know you two is because I hired Mike to coach me, and I've met Zsa Zsa a couple times. My wife, Amy's, talked to you and just had a great experience. But not just myself, my entire family, and really, changed our lives and the way that we see food, the way we see fitness, the way that we go about our daily routine. And once you learn something, you can't unlearn it. So it's incredibly life-changing. So that's a piece of it, understanding that life style, the way, what you guys do, how you do it, but also just your story. So the two of you coming together, having your careers and then having a business, it's incredibly stressful. There's a lot that goes into that, and then being successful at such a young age in multiple, just your careers, but also then having your own business, I think is a incredible story. And so I want you guys to be able to tell that story, share it the way that you want to share it, and we'll ask a bunch of questions.
And before you share your story, because you'll take us through some of it, but what you just described and where you are right now, is that what you thought where you'd be when you were 12 or 10?
No, not at all.
I love it. We'll hear how you got there, but I'm always curious if people, what'd you want to be when you were 12?
Yeah, what did you want to be when you were 12? Let's knock it out. What'd you want to be, Mike?
At 12, 12, I probably thought I was going to be a professional musician at that point.
Ooh,
Singer,
nice.
guitar?
Yeah, both. Yeah.
All right.
I grew up playing music, and that was a big part of my life growing up. And I didn't find fitness until I was around 16, and almost instantly then discovered bodybuilding, and I did started getting ready for my first competition at 18. And so my entire adult life has been fitness, bodybuilding, powerlifting,
Okay.
basically. So, but before all that was music. So
No, not to take us too far down the rabbit hole. I'll come to you, Zsa Zsa.
That's
So,
cool.
are we going back to this someday? When you're in your 50s, you're going to be in a band? Is it
I
on
don't
the
know.
table?
I mean, I still
He still plays, and he sings, and he's an incredible artist as well.
There you go.
Yeah, he's
Maybe
got a lot of talents.
Maybe we get a song out of him before
So for me, I wanted to be an officer, oddly enough. It runs in my family. My grandfather was Captain Highway Patrol, and then on my mom's side, my uncles and grandfathers were also in law enforcement. And that was the direction I thought I was going to go. And then I wound up having my first son at 20, and my whole life shifted as I knew it. It was time to buckle down and become a mother and find a career that was safe, so that I made it home to him every night, because I was a single mother. So never got to be in law enforcement, but got to marry one.
Next best thing?
Next best thing. Living vicariously through him.
Very nice.
So let's start with your story there. How did you two meet? And then we'll jump into
You
all
want the
that.
truth?
Yes. Oh, please. No one's listening.
We really don't tell people the truth.
So let's tell everybody.
So now we're gonna be
Solid
honest.
setup. Solid setup.
And the reason being, I think, because it was very taboo the way we met, and I think people.
It was taboo in 2015.
Now it's normal.
Okay.
So so we actually met on an app, Plenty of Fish, but we had actually frequented the same gym. Just didn't realize it, because Reno's not very big, and we both lived in Reno. Well, Sparks.
To me, Reno was huge.
And it was,
I grew up in a small town.
So to me, it was.
But yeah.
So Mike and I met on Plenty of Fish.
So that was taboo?
Yeah, well, back then it was. Back
Okay.
then, if you met online, it was kind of almost weird, like creepy, like.
Well, because that was like when Tinder was a thing, and it was like it felt like
Swipe left.
like hookup sites and things were kind of like a thing, and I don't know, internet dating was kind of just getting going.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's just as common as meeting somebody on like Facebook or Instagram.
Starbucks.
No, not Starbucks.
Even-
That's old school.
More organically though too.
That's not. We're much more millennial than that. But
That's
the
weird
point
now.
is-
Yeah, it's weird if you meet somebody.
Yeah, you don't meet people in person.
See, I still like to meet people organically.
I'm the old one in the group here. I've been married 25 years. I would die. So I wouldn't say it's taboo, but it's very foreign to me to think about meeting someone online. So
It was us too. In fact, I wasn't open to it. I had a marriage that failed, and I was just completely driven and focused on my career at that point. I had just bought my own home on my own and paid off my vehicle, and said, I'm just going to raise my children, get them out of the home, and then I'll focus on my life. But my best friend was not having it. She was like, you're going to get out there. I made you a profile, and I already swiped right on a few people, and one of them was Mike. And so that's how that happened.
Yeah. And I had just, I think I was just starting. I was a brand new fish cop at that point, brand new cop, getting held left and right, held over, working double shifts, and just brand new booty. You know, they were using, abusing me, and I was not into trying to find a girlfriend at that time.
He was looking for a movie date. And I love movies, so I was like, this is great. I literally just, I had these crazy weird days off. Like, my schedule would be like off Monday, Tuesday or something. And I'm like, at this point, I think I'm like 25, 26 years old, something like that. So, you know, I'm like, the weekend would come and I've got nothing to do. And I'm living in a town that I really don't know because I, you know, hadn't been there very long. And so I'm just really just more looking for kind of just a female to hang out with, go to see a movie or whatever. And then, but we hit it off, and she kind of caught my interest. We had a lot of things in common and had our first date. We both had failed marriages before that. I got married really young because I grew up in a small town, and had my son at 20 as well. And that was, so we kind of put our cards out there and said, this is who we are. This is what we're looking for. Take it or leave it. And luckily for both of us, that it was both things that we were good with, and that was pretty much it. I actually wasn't going to go on the date.
Oh yeah, that's the best part. So the best part about it though was she tried to stand me up.
Well, I had spent the week. I said I didn't want to go on a date with a stranger. I thought that was really strange. And so I said, listen, for the next week, I want you to send me a fun fact about yourself every morning. And I'll send you mine. And if we have, you know, things in common, then we'll go on this date. And if we don't, then no love lost. You don't have to waste time, and neither do I.
I was way younger than her. She
didn't want to date.
Yeah. What's the age difference? So you were 25 at the time, and
I was 32, I believe. Yeah, because we're 8 years
apart.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for me, it was for them, it's normal. For me, it was really strange to meet this person online and actually like go in person and meet them. And he says, "Do you want me to pick you up?" And I'm like, "No, absolutely not. You're not going to know where I live. Yeah. No way." So I met. We shared fun facts. We realized we had a lot in common. We both believe in God. We both rode motorcycles. We both liked the gym. There was a lot of things that we had in common. We both had sons that were the same age. And so then when we went to the date, it didn't feel like I was meeting a stranger. It felt like I was meeting somebody new. But I did try to cancel the date.
So I'm at the mall, and I haven't been on a date in forever at this point, right? Like I don't even know how long it had been. And so I've got all these ratty clothes, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I got to get some clothes. So I go to the mall. I spend a bunch of money. And the funny thing is, so this is back when like, if you remember, like UFC was taking off, and everybody was into like those affliction shirts and all that kind of stuff. And they're like,
we all wore one. We all made that mistake.
Yeah. And they're like these $90 shirts. You know, these shirts were so expensive. And so I go to Buckle, I get this expensive shirt thinking I'm doing the most. And little did I know that she hated affliction and she hated all that stuff, you know. So I already said, but so I'm walking out to my car, and my phone goes, and it goes off, and it's like, I don't think I'm going to make it. It's raining really bad. And I'm looking up, and I'm like, it's not even raining right now. What are you talking about?
Well, I live in Sparks, and it's raining here.
And I was like, I'm in Sparks, and it's not raining. And she's like, well, it might. And I'm like, okay. So you don't want to go because it might rain. Like, she literally was like backpedaling so hard, but I called her on her crap. So.
He did, and he said, I had another date, and I canceled that date to go with you. And then I felt much pressure, so I was like, fine, I'll come. And I knew what I wanted, and I knew where I wanted to go. So for me, I was really serious. So I sat down and I said, listen, I don't need you to buy me dinner. I don't need anything from you. I have my own career. I have a lot going on for me. So I'm going to lay all my cards out on the table because I don't want to play games. And this is who I am. This is what I'm about. And if you're not interested in this, then it's not going to work. I don't want children. There's things that are deal breakers for me. And
Date one.
I'm
okay,
no joke.
to the point.
Just rip the Band-Aid off.
That's very telling.
Yeah. And I'm like, can we just go to the movies now? Like, shoot.
Well, I'll say you did a week of fun facts. That's like points before the date.
Yeah.
Like if you.
Solid date tips for
it was I figured it's better to know that you have things in common than to go on this date and you're sitting there staring at this person going, I I really just want to leave,
Yeah.
and the people that go to the bathroom and leave, I find that that's really offensive. Like, you can get out of the date and just say thank you, but no thank you. And so for me, I didn't want to have any of that awkwardness. So for me, it was really important that we had things in common.
In case you guys, you're probably, whoever's listening, picking up, she's always at like a 12. So she's just always like, I'm like, it didn't have to be that deep. We could just
Very
show
passionate
up,
about life.
eat some food, and then
I'm
went
over
our
here,
way.
I'm also at a 12, so this is
Yeah,
helpful.
good. Because I love people, I love life, and I
this
love
is
our
normal.
story.
This
So
is
for me,
great.
She was at a 12, and I was like, dude, I just want to eat some pot stickers and hang out.
Well, I love it. So we're on date one. Where are you two at in your career? So this is, you guys are getting together. You're just meeting each other. 8-year difference, 25, 31, 32.
He was a new cop.
Yep.
New
he
cop.
was a new cop. I had at this point been at Cisco, I want to
6
say
years?
maybe 7 years, so pretty vested in my career. I actually was on track for winning some corporate awards. So Mike benefited from my career because he was able to go on these really cool trips with me.
And what were you doing? What was your career at the time?
I was working for Cisco, so I was selling food. So I
Sales
had
rep?
so I was a sales rep. Yes, I was a territory manager in my area, which was Tahoe. It couldn't ever go wrong, going to Tahoe every single day. And so I got to take Mike on some really cool trips that I won just, from my hard work and dedication. And he was like, I could get used to this. And I was like, yeah, so can I. This is why I keep working so hard.
Yeah, that was some of the better memories I think that we had was when we first started dating was we went on like this one really early on. Mm-hmm. And at this point, I was super jacked. I was like,
in very good shape.
I had just done, I think, a competition or getting ready for one. And so I was like just super, super jacked, super lean. We go away to this like weekend resort, and I'd been on a strict diet and I hadn't been really able to enjoy anything. And we get all dressed to the gill to go out to this nice, like bougie thing. And I had like a nice fitted shirt on, and
it was very hard to find trousers for him. So he had to wear stretchy jeans, which is comical now, thinking and saying it out loud, because Michael's quads were so big that he couldn't find any, dress pants that fit him unless they were tailored, and we didn't have that time. We didn't realize we wouldn't be able to find him.
Yeah. So anyways, we go to this resort though, and it was, what's that place called? North Creek or?
No, the resort at Squaw Creek.
Yeah, Squaw Creek. That's right. Squaw Creek. And it was during this rainstorm, and we're at like the top floor, and it's, it's a ski resort normally, and it's just dumping snow and
Rain.
Snow.
It did both.
Rain. Yeah, you're right. Rain. It was just dumping rain. But it was so cool. We were just locked in this beautiful like penthouse suite, and the fireplace and just
2 fireplaces.
2 fireplaces.
One in my room, one in the living room.
And then we got to eat like kings and queens and just a really nice little getaway.
So my company would, when you won these awards, they would take
Pay for all of it.
They'd take you to these beautiful resorts, whether it was Pebble Beach or the resort at Squaw, which I always hated because I always won the awards when they were in my backyard. I'm like, I work here. This is not that awesome. But this suite that they put you in, they all expenses. They gave you money. They let you do things. Open bar. It was wonderful. It was a great career.
Oh, so there's a backstory to how we got here and me asking people to tell their story. So I wish this was on video because you two are lighting up talking about dating each other, which is just incredible. So
all these years later,
it's one of our favorite things to do is to see people get excited about their stories and share it. So you start dating, you're in your careers, and you're both fitness lovers. You both competing. Where are you guys at in your fitness journey?
So she had always been more into like running. She had actually been a very successful runner. Fairly new to the workout side of things. She had went with a friend who at the time, I think she thought he knew what he was doing.
Well, he was an ex-Dallas football player. So he did know what he was doing, but in athletic training, right? Yeah. So this fast.
And I'm going to argue that he still he maybe at one point
still a debate years later.
Maybe at one point he had a coach that trained him at a different kind of facility, but what he was doing in the gym was a bunch of ego lifting, and it was terrible. But
is he still a friend? Is he listening
no,
to this?
no.
Okay.
not a friend.
Sure.
We had been friends my whole life, but
he got mad when her and I got together. So I think there was some hidden emotion that he had from the whole thing. But anyway, so she was just kind of getting into working out, and she had distanced herself from the running side of things. I right before the academy, because at the academy you have to basically live there for like 3 months. So I actually had just done a powerlifting meet, I want to say like 2 weeks before going to the academy, which is very counterintuitive when you're going to go to something that you're going to have to like run and do stuff. So I'm like 265 pounds, benching, well over 500 pounds, squatting over 700 pounds, deadlifting close to 700 pounds. I had a on the platform total of like 1,880 pounds. So I was like getting close to approaching a 2,000 pound,
Wow.
powerlifting total, which is pretty significant.
and you can see that all on our Instagram too. You'll have to go through, but you can see all of those things.
Yeah.
They're
So
on there.
yeah, and I was doing it I was actually, even though 265 pounds to most people seems big, in the powerlifting world, that was I was a light heavyweight, which is actually very relatively on the smaller side compared to some of the 330 pound big boys, And because I did have such a bodybuilding background, I was able to do some stuff that I think a lot of people couldn't do. And that was make these incredible weights. So what I would do is, coming into a meet, I would cut down to 242 pounds within about 48 hours. So I'd go from 265 down to 242.
Oh, wow.
It was wild.
And then within 24 hours of making weight before the competition, I would then rehydrate and refuel back up to 265 pounds, because in order to keep those, there's we call them leverages, and it's basically just the angles and in which you're able to produce force with your body. You have to have those same numbers, right? If you imagine a 20 pound difference on a person, you're going to have different leverages at that point. So you have to get back to that 265 to keep in that strength. So I would have to refeed and refuel, rehydrate back up to that 265 within 24 hours, and I would do that. And it was quite the ordeal.
Yeah, it was quite the process. So both of you love fitness, a little bit different for Zsa Zsa.
Yeah.
You're both in your careers. 4 kids, do I have that right? 3 kids? 3 kids. You're figuring it all out, and you're incredibly disciplined to be training. How is this working? Where are you finding time for each other?
For all of it.
We had an intricate dance, I think.
Well, we did, but so I think that was kind of where we first had met each other. So I had just come out of the powerlifting. I had taken a break from the bodybuilding world, got into the powerlifting thing. I was kind of in a weird spot because I was at this point so consumed with work, and being like in the new cop role that I didn't know even really. I was back in the gym and I was doing my thing, but it wasn't very focused, right? Like was I bodybuilding? Was I powerlifting? What was I doing? And she was new to the gym side of it. So her and I did enjoy working out together.
We
so
loved
that,
it.
that became part of what we started doing. And then there was a point where she was like, well, what is it you want to do? And she goes, do you want to powerlift or do you want to bodybuild? And I said, well, I think my passion will always be, bodybuilding, even though I think genetically I'm probably a better power lifter. And she goes, well, then
Let's
it.
do it.
And I'll do it with you. And so that was kind of the agreement we had way back then, and kind of remained. She never actually competed. She always would just diet with me, as I was getting ready for, again, just being my support, my rock.
And this is early.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this was our first year together. First couple of months, we. I did ask him that. I asked him a lot of hard questions, like what his goals were, where he's seen himself, because all that was very important to me because I was older than him. So I knew where I was going. I knew where I wanted to be. So he was still just a pup. So it was almost like, what is it that you want to do? And then let's do that, and let's do that together. And he's absolutely correct. So bodybuilding had been something I've known about most of my life, but I had actually watched it pretty much tear my parents apart. And so for me,
Her mom bodybuilding.
Yeah, I didn't like bodybuilding. I was like, no, because I had seen such a negative side of it. So I became a big time runner, marathon runner. And, but I always knew I was missing something. And I think it was just my roots, you know, and when he said he wanted to go back to bodybuilding, it was actually really exciting for me because I was at that point where I was falling in love with that process through another person, obviously. But once Mike and I got together, it just ignited this passion with us both. And we became pretty hardcore in the gym. And it it happened just so quick. Like, and before I knew it, we were immersed in this bodybuilding world, and we had clients and we had friends, and we were trying to figure out how to navigate friendships, because these people would hire us. And then of course, through the course of that, want to work out and become friends. And it was a kind of a gray area, because we were never really ever sure if they were our friends or if they just wanted coaching. And so we found we had some roadblocks, you know, things that we had to, I guess, create boundaries.
When did people come into, so was it at first just you were doing it for yourself? When did the coaching start?
So that's her, I was gonna say, so that's kind of her perspective of, because when she kind of came into it. So I had already done probably 6 bodybuilding competitions prior to her and I ever meeting, as well as the 2 powerlifting competitions I did right before the academy. And I had already helped my ex-wife turn pro in bodybuilding early on. Had a lot of people that I had already coached and trained into successful bodybuilders, as well as I had formed a training studio out in the town that I grew up in and trained.
So as a business, or as you were just helping?
No, as a business.
Okay.
I had, before I got into the department, I literally helped develop a training out a small gym, and I trained a ton of lifestyle clients as well as bodybuilders, and they all were extremely successful, both my lifestyle clients and my competitive athletes. And so I had already kind of had that I had created and been dealing with. But again, it was still very much an in-person business, right? And then when I went away then I moved, after my divorce, I moved to Reno. And some of my clients wanted to work with me still. And I'm like, well, I'm moving. So that's where I kind of came up with hey, a lot of this I can do online. And so that was kind of the first, and there were some growing pains in that, some things that I kind of had to learn. But so I continue to have, offhand, I can think of several clients who I was working with remotely, just completely online, that were very successful.
So let me come back to it. I'm going to interrupt you. So for those that don't know, what's a lifestyle? What is that lifestyle client? What does that mean?
Right. So a lifestyle is going to be your normal person. That's your normal everyday Joe who just wants to get in shape. We call them lifestyle clients, just basically to separate them from our competitive athlete who is trying to get on stage in any form of bodybuilding. Because there's more than, I think people just think of bodybuilding, they think of men's bodybuilding, they think of a bunch of big guys that sit on stage, but there's actually several categories within the men's division, as well as several categories within the female side of things. I mean, all the way down from bikini competitions, figures, another one in the female side, physique, and then women's bodybuilding, which is obviously the biggest. And then in the men's categories, they have men's physique, which is where they wear board shorts. You have the classic division, and then you have men's bodybuilding, being, again, the biggest. And so, there's a whole spectrum of athletes within that too. And even those clients, you train differently. The way I train a bikini client compared to the way I train a men's open bodybuilder is very different, and then a lifestyle, obviously very different as well. So
lifestyle. So let me use myself as an example. So drink on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, I'm going to In-N-Out
We
Burger,
don't hear this.
2 a.m. But I can still come to you guys who train elite athletes. That's the lifestyle. I don't have to live a particular, yes, you have to be disciplined, but
right.
I'm saying normal. I can still have a normal balanced life and still be trained by you guys.
So I think I can answer the lifestyle question a little bit better. So lifestyle to us is just teaching the common person, and I hate the word common, but teaching a person has no background in fitness, how to live their life every day healthy. And we call it lifestyle because you really are changing your life. So you're changing your eating habits, you're changing your patterns and when you're waking up and the things that you're doing, and then to the gym or, meal prepping your food. And we're teaching you how to incorporate this into your everyday life so that it becomes a lifestyle change, so that you now no longer look at food on a pedestal and you look at it as fuel for the body, as if you're driving your vehicle. If you had this high performance car, you wouldn't take a Ferrari and put unleaded gas in it. You would put premium gas in it. We are teaching that the person the same thing. Like, hey, you need to look at your body as your temple, and it's going to be with you until you go. Mm-hmm. And so you need to perform at this level, and how you get to that level is by changing their lifestyle. And it's really simplistic. People try to complicate it, but it really isn't that hard. It's taking out the processed foods and taking out the snacking and taking out the bored eating, and then realizing that if you are feeling your body on a 2 to 3 hour basis, you are going to run like a well machine. And then all of the perks from that, once you start sprinkling the workouts into it, it's like a cupcake with the icing, right? It's not complete until you sprinkle something fun on top. And then you see it all come together. And that, in our eyes, encompasses a lifestyle client. So
I'm going to come back to it. I love your guys' passion. If I get you on this topic, we're going to go for hours.
Yes.
So I'm going to bring.
I want to know about the clients, though.
We're going to come back to it. I'm going to come back to your story.
Okay.
So you guys are in the area where you're starting to figure out boundaries with friends. You have a business already in place. Mm-hmm. You're coming in. So your careers are growing outside of, the training business. Where do you guys come together to start to say, hey, we can do this together, or we can help people or does that happen? How does it work? How does it work with you two?
I have a passion for gab.
Yeah, she's definitely the talker. I'm not the social butterfly she is, and
he's not very warm. He's very passionate about what he does, and he loves his clients, but it doesn't always come off that way. I think because he is an officer, and because he is very passionate, and those two things are very polarizing. They're very different. Yeah. Sometimes in the business, I would listen to him talk to his clients, and I would just not necessarily cringe, but be like, oh my gosh, did you just say that?
Well, I just have a really high standard. I mean,
he's never going to tell you you did great unless you did great.
Yeah, I believe I don't, and this is, it's the same as my parenting style. I'm not going to give you a trophy for just participating.
Yeah.
Right? I don't believe in that. And so for me, if I'm going to say, hey, you did great this week, then you earned that. And if I didn't say, hey, you did great this week, it's probably because you didn't, and I mean, and I hate to say it, but like that, and I look at it as what creates champions, because a lot of these lifestyle clients that I have, they might start as lifestyle clients, but then through the process of teaching them a lot of what this is, when you're, when a new person comes to me, whether they're a lifestyle client or a competitor, I'm giving them an education. Mm-hmm. It's like paying for schooling for a semester of college in basically the form of fitness, right? And what that really means, and how to amplify the process. So you get online, you're going to hear 50,000 different contradicting things. Oh, do keto and do this and do that, right? And they're all going to conflict. Yeah. Of one's going to say this is good for you, and no, this one says no, this is good for you, and blah blah blah. I'm going to take out all the nonsense. I'm going to take down everything. I'm going to take all of my 16 years of theology, exercise physiology, certifications, and everything that I have established, and I'm going to give you a crash course. Because if you look at most of my, more than anything, I'm a transformation expert. That is what I do, and most of my transformations, again, whether it be a pro bodybuilder or average Joe that I just turned on to going to the gym, I'm going to completely change their physique in 3 to 4 months. And that's the typical time frame that I'm working in. So I don't really have time to sit there. And now, granted, I have some clients who will hire me for a longer period, and they are going to be more of the ones who want just the accountability and things of that nature. So again, it does happen. It does change from client to client and goal to goal. But some people are going, I got a wedding coming up and I want to look badass by my wedding. How do I do it? And I go, well, this is how we're going to do it. And I teach them a level of discipline that they have never had. I teach them a way of thinking about food, like she was talking about, that they have never thought about. And, and so it's, so, and then to answer your question, I think, and this, I think, we kind of mentioned this earlier, but part of when the business, I think, really took off to a whole nother degree. And this is where I think Zsa really came on board a little bit more. And we really, and now we're even at a point now of talking about where she'll even take on like the female aspect of the clients and really like having to divide it and doing some other roles. So that we do have, kind of dreams and goals and kind of ways that we want to see this thing continue to grow. But when I did go through my my pec tear, and was it 2 years ago now? It removed me from my career, obviously, as I had to have surgery and I was out of work for a while. Well, during that time, people were just coming out of COVID, and things, I don't know, it like all of a sudden, and I just had a website built.
The business blew up. And
next thing you know, this thing just like quintupled. I mean, it was insanity.
How many clients at that point? Ballpark.
I don't even know. I mean, I was having $30,000 months. I was having incredible months where I was like, which again, thank God, because I wasn't getting a paycheck either. Because I just had this catastrophic. The pec tear happened outside of work, so I wasn't covered.
So let's jump into this. This is a perfect segue. So you guys, we fast forward. You guys fallen in love. You guys are together, businesses together, and how did you tear your pec?
So I had to, there's been several times where I've had to step away or at least step back over the last 16 years to prioritize whether it be my career. I think I am such 110% kind of person. And that is, I think, what was been taught, that I've taught myself from bodybuilding and understanding how to really just have a level of discipline that is borderline obsession, right? And so when I want something, I'm going to take the same effort that I take in getting ready for a bodybuilding competition, where I'm going to give 110% to this thing, And so it took everything I had to try to make, to get on with this. It's a very special kind of unit that when I was working with the fire system, right? There's not a lot of people that are in it. It's very, what's the word I'm looking for?
It's kind of prestigious in their company and what they do to get to this.
It's an obscene amount of money. Yeah. I mean, that's what I think. So it's just extremely competitive. I know guys who've spent years trying to get into these fire camp programs because you're getting paid overtime 24 hours a day for 30 days at a time. So you'll get back from a fire run, with a $30,000 paycheck, and it's insane. So I had found out about it from a friend, and there was kind of a couple opportunities, but they were very much like long shots. And I was actually at a point where my best friend had just died, and him and I we bodybuilded together. And I took that was it kind of rocked me, it was one of those things where it rocked me. So I was like, I woke up, I don't remember, just like a couple days later, I woke up and I told her, and I said, hey, I think I'm done bodybuilding. And she's like, what? I go, yeah, I think I'm done. And she
this
goes,
was before the pec tear.
Yeah. And she goes, well, what are you going to do? And I go, I think I'm going to try to do this fire camp thing. I think I'm going to really go for it. And so I did. And so all my extra time I was volunteering at these cause it's kind of like getting on with a in a firehouse, like a firefighter would do, right? You have to go volunteer, you have to do all this stuff. So I was out volunteering at all these different camps with no promise of getting on there. Some camp might be 5-6 hours away, so I'd have to drive over there, paying my dues all over the place, and hoping and praying that I could get on. And then I was interviewing all the time, and lo and behold, and I had people straight up telling me, there's no way you're getting on, dude. What do you got that coming? Blah, 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 blah. You got to be, only people getting on are people with 20-year cops that have, XYZ. And well, lo and behold, I got on. And it was fantastic, but
we had to shut the business down.
Well, but this is right when COVID took off. So I was still actually running everything.
So you're having 30,000 months. 30,000 months.
No.
And you have to shut down.
No.
Oh, that's before.
This is
Okay.
before.
This is the setup. Yeah, this is the setup.
Gotcha.
So I get out, and all of a sudden the world goes nuts, as we all know. COVID-19 hits, and my clients are all texting me. I have a decent amount of clients at this point, but nothing crazy.
Shows are canceling.
But all of a sudden shows are canceling, and the gyms are closing, and the world shuts down. So I basically sent out a thing saying, hey guys, for the time being, I'm going to focus on my career. And when things pick back up, I'll let you guys know. And so I basically shut it down for a while. And I went on to do this, and it was California's 2 worst fire seasons they ever had. And I did the best I could between chasing fires. At least every fire station had a good gym. And so I would try to at least work out 3-4 times a week at best, but it was rough, it was hard. So I did what I could, but it was one of those things. So finally, things start to kind of open up again. I start taking on some clients, and I would just bring my laptop with me, and I would start answering from the fire line. I would have my laptop and be just responding and doing what I could on my downtime. But I had a very limited spots. I wasn't taking on a lot, just some of my main guys that I'd already been kind of working with, and I finally get back, and our life's kind of returning. Fire season's over. And I'm looking at myself going, I got to get back in shape. I have completely
we both had.
Yeah, I'd been eating these fire sack lunches. And
so let me just paint the picture just to make sure I understand.
Yeah.
When you say you have to get back in shape, so you're fighting fires. I would imagine by most people's standards, you're in fantastic shape, but by yours, no?
No, because on the fire lane, I can speak to this because he would bring bags home sometimes and I dump them out. It's all just carbs because they want to keep you going. So they want to keep you spiking your sugar to keep you constantly going. And so they would have really great dinners and they have good lunches, but
super high calorie.
It
was an immense calorie. Yeah. High calorie. And again, I was there. I wasn't fighting fires. I was a cop. I just was a liaison officer. I was there. Basically, my job was to facilitate inmate prisoners to fight fires and to watch over them. So I'm working. There's some days where I don't even sleep. I'm up all night, all day. There are some days it would be 32 hours before I finally got much more than a nap.
So legitimately out of shape.
Yeah, legitimately just out. And then I would try to, like I said, I would train 3-4 days a week at these little gyms. But when you're sleep deprived and not eating great, it's the best I could do, but it wasn't wonderful. You know what I mean? And again, maybe to normal person standards, it was great. But for me, it was far from what I was used to being an elite athlete for most of my life, So, I get back and there's a new gym that is new to us because we just moved to that area. And I start trying to get back in shape, get my diet back in. Fire season's over, so things would slow down. I'm getting back in shape. I'm looking good. Strength's going through the roof. Yep, strength's going up.
Both of us.
No, we're both.
We've always done it together.
Yeah.
So if one gets out of shape, the other one does too. And the reason being is not because one of us doesn't have the willpower. It's an intricate dance that we do with each other. And what's hard is if one goes off track and the other one is still focused, it's almost like this weird thing that happens where if that person is not wanting to be on that same level with you, then they sabotage. Hey, I want to eat pizza tonight, and I know you can't have it, but I'm going to bring it home and eat it. And so then you're smelling it, and you're like, oh, this is so unfair. And we didn't do it intentionally. It was just our ebb and flow, and so we've
just always done things together.
We've just done it together. So we realized if one fell off,
we'd start eating crappy together.
We do it together, and so we both had gotten pretty plump compared to where we had been. And we decided to pull the Band-Aid off and go back full steam ahead. And I think his body was telling us something different.
So yeah, I was, again, when you have somebody like myself, I mean, there were, I've got videos of me wearing a bench shirt and benching 615 pounds for a double. So I was working out with, at the time, I think it was like 365, which wasn't crazy. I repped it out 10 times.
It's his warm-up.
I'd already done plenty of warm-ups. I was hot, blah, 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 blah. I go to do it again, and boom, catastrophic injury. Pet completely detached from the bone, goes flying up, and it's gone.
Oh.
And weight comes down. I throw it off the whole bit. It was absolutely terrible. And I've had some pretty awesome injuries, but that was hands down my worst. And from this point, it's now X-rays, MRIs, and trying to figure out when they can get me into surgery. And my job doesn't really, you got to burn your sick time. So once you burn through your sick time, that's that. You don't really have any, like, that's just not how it works. And so I was basically on a paycheck. So I started getting really hungry on and I've always been a hustler though. You know what I mean? Like, I am just a naturally born hustler.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
I don't know if hustler is the right word, because hustler always has a negative
grinder.
He's just a very driven.
motivated.
He's super driven.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm not going to be just sitting home not making money, So the business had already, at this point, because when it started to kind of have a little bit of a ramp up once summer had ended, and at this point gyms had opened up and they were starting to open up shows again. I reached out to a good friend of mine while I was down, and he helped me create this beautiful website and helped me with some marketing stuff. And I guess just the right timing with everything, getting on Google at the right time, whatever it was, it blew up. Absolutely blew up. And that was when I started having these like $30,000 months. And what a blessing to have it at such a fantastic time when I was kind of worried about, how am I going to get by during this period, And so we ended up having this killer thing, and it just took off. And that was when we started talking about bringing her on, and then now we're going to these shows again, and that's where she would really help out huge, is just helping me keep everything organized, help me, it's like herding kittens when you got a bunch of people at a show and trying to keep everything together. And that was really where, that was, like she said, she kind of got deemed the mama bear, clients reaching out to her as well for things,
for diet hacks.
Yeah. So I want to bring you back. So you haven't figured out, I'm the sappy one of the group. Mm-hmm. So, you tear your pec, you're an elite athlete. You guys are you're getting ready to get back into it.
Yeah.
And now you can't work out. And I've been there before. Mm-hmm. So what's that do to the relationship? We have had such a great time with Mike and Zsa that we had to break this into 2 episodes. You can hear the answer to that question and much, much more in part 2. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Grandpa and the Millennial, and you can follow us on LinkedIn at Tell Us Your Story. Grandpa and the Millennial, out.